Hello, everyone. It's Mark Holthe here, back for another live Q&A. Lots of people are asking two big questions that we will cover today. One, the borders are open, now what? And two, what is happening with the express entry draws? We'll get back to that in a second. All right, here we go. So we'll give a little bit of time for everybody to pile in. Make sure you always post where you're tuning in from. I love to see where people are watching, and it is 10 a.m. Mountain Time. This is our regular time, Wednesdays, where we do the Immigration Live Q&A. My name is Mark Holthe. I am a Canadian immigration lawyer. I'm an ex-immigration officer, and I am a former high school teacher. And I take all of those things, blend them together to create this. And this has been probably the highlight of my practice. I love doing this. I love getting on, offering advice and direction and help to people. And I guess it's not technically legal advice, because if it was legal advice, you will hear this right here. And that means that your question is really specific to you and isn't of benefit to the whole group that are watching. And so just a little point, just some rules and housekeeping things I wanted to talk about. When you are asking a question, make sure that you focus on something that's of general benefit to everyone. Because if your question is, hey, how do I qualify to immigrate to Canada? I'm going to ring this bell, and then I'm going to push you right over here to holthelaw.com, our firm website, and encourage you to book a consultation. And that way we can address the specifics of your situation, because realistically, I can't give specific information, specific legal advice to you unless I get all the facts. And the most important thing is that this is a benefit to as many people as possible. All right, so we already have some questions that are coming in terms of what the future holds for the express entry draws. I think we're all surprised. I was surprised that there wasn't a draw. And if we go over here and we take a look at the rounds of invitations, and we'll hit these right off the bat, you guys can see that the last round of invitation was last Wednesday, and it was a PNP draw. And if we scroll down here to the rounds of invitations, you guys can see right here that the last draw was a provincial nominee only, and it occurred on September the 1st, which is basically a week ago. And so what is the scoop? You know, when I didn't see the draw coming, the CEC draw, when I did not see a Canadian Experience Class draw coming on the Thursday, then I thought, oh, something big is happening. Because every time that there's been a delay, we saw that big, massive draw that was on February the 13th. We saw changes to programming and things like that. But usually when there's a little bit of a hesitation, it means something bigger is happening. But understand, you guys, the reality is when you're looking at express entry, you have to realize that even though it appears that there are patterns, and let's scroll down a little bit and let's look at the previous rounds of invitations. And you guys will see that up until September the 1st, there was a pattern. And the pattern we saw was a PNP draw right here. We'll scroll down just a little bit. A PNP draw on the Wednesday, and then a CEC draw on the Thursday. See, the 18th and 19th. And that pattern held true. PNP, CEC, PNP, CEC. All the way July, June again, May. Now this one here was a little bit different. So we went from May 26th to the 31st, and then there was a larger draw. And then we had some smaller draws in May, two back to back. But even though it appears that there are perfect kind of patterns that are being created, anything can happen with express entry. And if we go back, and we'll just go back even earlier, you guys will remember the big massive draw that occurred on February the 13th. There was a little bit of a delay, PNP on the Wednesday, and then, surprise, surprise, on the Saturday, the 27,332 invitations extended with a CRS score of 75, the record low it's ever been. So with all of this being said, understand the one thing that you really have to understand is that there is no 100% set schedule as to what they're going to do. And we've seen it. So now we're in a situation where we're waiting and seeing. We're all waiting to see. We're in the midst of an election. I think everybody knows that. People are also asking, what is the effect of the election on immigration? Personally, in the short term, I do not believe that there is going to be a significant impact if the Conservatives get in versus the Liberals. as it pertains to economic immigrants. So those of you who are skilled workers going through express entry, I personally do not see a significant change in how, if the Conservatives are elected, how that would impact on economic processing. The only possibility is maybe they could reduce the levels. And right now we know 401k, 401,000 is what they're shooting for this year for holistically immigration to Canada. And a large portion, over 100,000, are economic immigrants. And I don't think there's going to be significant changes with that. I've been in a number of stakeholder kind of meetings within the Conservative Party, and they understand the importance of immigration. They really do. So, you know, Aaron O'Toole, if he gets elected and he's the next prime minister, I don't see significant changes when it comes to the economic classes. Yes, possibly family. Yes, possibly, you know, refugee. Maybe they will reduce numbers. Maybe they will take a different approach. Maybe parents and grandparents, they'll take a different approach. But when it comes to the vast majority of you guys that are looking to immigrate through the economic programs, I don't see the elections having a huge impact on that. There's a number of programs. We're waiting to see what happens with express entry. We know there's been other people out there, and I've talked about this, that have done videos on, you know, the new occupation structure. Maybe they're going to add occupation specific categories, or they're going to create something within express entry for lower skill individuals. That's entirely possible, but I'm not going to speculate about this stuff until we see it. I may do a video just talking generally about it, but I can tell you, meetings, and I've had lots of meetings with immigration. I've just rolled over to become the past chair of the Canadian Bar Association's National Immigration Section. Kyle has taken over as the chair as of September the 1st, and all of the meetings, everything, meetings that we had with the prime minister, with the minister, there hasn't been any discussion about that yet. And so until we see it, I'm not going to talk about it because it's pure speculation. In reality, we do a lot of speculating, don't we? But yeah, when it comes to express entry, the last draw that we had, you guys can see, and I'm going to go back here. I'm just going to flip back a couple so that we can get back to the actual draw right here. So the last draw we saw was September the 1st. If I refresh this page, sometimes we've had draws right in the middle of our actual live Q&A, but it seems like these ones are happening a little bit later in the day. And so we'll just kind of monitor it. And if something changes, people can let me know. All right. So that's kind of a little bit of an update. Now, a couple other things I want to address with you guys as well. Yesterday was the day, and many people are asking questions, and I'm actually going to flip back here and I will pull up, I'll pull up Vimaram. He was the first one to toss a question out here. I'm going to extend this out a little bit here, so it's a little bit bigger. Okay, I think that should work there. Okay, so he says, we're watching, as per your suggestions, watching the border opening. No news yet regarding FSW applications, and RCC is neglecting our questions. How soon can we expect some progress? Okay, so let's go back here to the main government website, Immigration and Citizenship. This is the source of knowledge that I go to. This is what I rely upon, in addition to the actual meetings that I have with head immigration officials. So this here, you'll see right off the bat, they talk about border changes. And so like we addressed in, I did a special little video on the fact that they had confirmed that they were moving forward with allowing visitors to come to Canada. So those of you who missed that video that I did, I think it was on Friday. That video was specific. And if you go to the YouTube channel and we scroll down a little bit here, we'll go to videos generally. Here we go. So the travel advisory right here. Yeah, 4 days ago, I did this one. And this is where they confirmed that they were absolutely going to continue forward and roll forward with the opening of the border. So if you are a fully vaccinated traveler, then you are able to now travel. And you can check the exemptions. You can go to the website. You can see specific vaccines right here are on the yes list. The other vaccinations out there, these are no's. If you have these, if you've been fully vaccinated with these ones here, then you have the ability to come visit Canada, to avoid quarantine, and to basically avoid the travel restrictions if you're looking to visit just on a holiday. And that's something that we've been watching to see what would happen. It's really, really good news, you guys. because like I said, this is a sign that Canada's borders are starting to open. Now, let's get back to the question from Vimauram. The question is, they haven't posted anything about FSW. There's nothing about the applications, and they're not answering our questions. And so how soon can we expect some progress? Well, understand that progress actually is already happening. So the overseas visa offices are actually processing applications. Now, some countries, like we talked about, are slower than others. Before Express Entry was even created, we know that the process to apply through the FSW in some countries was up to 5-6 years to process. And now, because of Express Entry, those timelines have all been crunched, and there's such an expedited processing of these applications prior to the pandemic, it reset people's expectations. So then the pandemic hit, then everything ground to a halt overseas, and all of you Outlanders who had applications pending were stuck. We know now that if you have been granted a confirmation of permanent residence, you can board and you can travel. That was in existence before yesterday, September the 7th. But it is true, there are some countries where the visa offices are still operating at a skeleton crew. They don't have all of the officers there. They haven't rolled back the visa requirements that are imprinted into the passports. And so if you don't have a live person there to process it, you need to receipt the passport, imprint the visa, issue it. When you don't have a full complement of workers at the visa offices, then things are going to continue to grind really slow. And if the virus is still running rampant in your country, if there are concerns for the health of visa officers, even in the context of those that are fully vaccinated, then immigration is going to be slow to roll out these officers to the overseas missions to get processing back up to speed. So as long as the virus continues to be, and all the variants continue to be there, you have to expect that there's still going to be a much slower processing, even though your office in your country might be open. And that's whether I'm talking about India or Pakistan or Nigeria or, or Guatemala, whatever it might be, that plays a role. And those statistics, those numbers, those, whether or not visas are operating at full capacity, these are all things that are not posted on the government website. So you can see here, any updates of any significance are posted right on the main site, just like you can see here. So the border changes, they talked about the special program to resettle Afghans. I also want to give everybody a little bit of a heads up that the Canadian Bar Association is offering pro bono services to individuals who are stuck in Afghanistan right now and are looking to get out. And so if they meet the eligibility for this special program, we're in the process of putting together a group of lawyers who are volunteering of their time to help people that are in this situation. And this is why I absolutely love the Canadian Bar Association. This is why I love the lawyers that are a part of it, who are so willing to give and of their time and their knowledge to help people in need. And this situation with Afghanistan is absolutely one of those situations. So stay tuned. I'll post more information about that as we learn more about what the Canadian government is doing. And we've already had meetings with them, so I'll keep you posted on that front. Okay, so back to the reality. We have, like I said, we've got the travel. The borders are open for visitors who are fully vaccinated, which is a big step. It has been over, like we're talking since March 18th of 2020. That's when things shut down. Okay, let's see where people are tuning in from. And I've tried to talk about these issues generally. So if you've asked a question that addresses things like this, Jeevan, when is FSW draw? We've already talked about that. So if you're wondering why I skipped through your question, it may be because I've already answered it in the introduction. All right. Okay, so we've got Karen, who's in Delhi, is asking for some good news. Same story. Okay. Wojcik is in Ireland. Good to see you. Let's see. So hold off on your questions, okay? I'm doing pretty good, Siddharth. Let's see where else everybody is connected. Okay, we've got Muhammad up in Edmonton. Great. Someone here in my province of Alberta. And those of you who don't know, I'm broadcasting from Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. So this is my home. And I'm broadcasting from my home. My law firm, Holthe Immigration Law, right here, is a virtual cloud-based firm. So the lawyers that you would, when you speak to a lawyer and you go to book a consultation, the lawyers, I'm in Lethbridge, Alicia's in Calgary, Susan's in Edmonton. And so the lawyers in our firm are in Alberta, and we're actively looking for new lawyers to join us. Igor, who is our fearless and has been our fearless intake specialist and my right-hand man, I guess, if you will, he has just started his postgraduate program in law at the University of Calgary so that he can get his credentials recognized, meet the requirements to then come back and join us as an articling student and start his career in Canada as an immigration lawyer. So you're going to see less of Igor when you're booking consults. And we have Max, who is joining us, and he's replacing Igor, and he just started on September the 1st. And so those of you who are booking consults may connect with Max or my son Adam for another couple months before he goes back to school. So that's how we roll here at Hothe Immigration Law. We are a training ground for future leaders. All right. Okay, so let's go back and let's see what else we have. Remember, I'll give you the sign. I'll give you the green light when we're ready to book. When we're ready to start taking questions. So hold off on posting your questions. I just want to see where you're from. Okay, so Siddharth is in New York City. Abinaya is in India. We've got South Africa, Bokong, Punjab. Excellent. George, who is a past subscriber and a faithful follower. I will definitely give you a thumbs up, George. George has been with me since the very beginning, and that's a great segue to let people know as well. When you click in the link below, it's right here. You will see that this will take you to the Canadian Immigration Institute. And I think some of you know, if you click on the courses, the TR to PR pathway is still there. It's still open. If we jump over to right here, you'll see that the workers in healthcare, I don't think it's going to fill up, guys. I really don't. And another question I know you guys are asking is, with the TR to PR pathway, this program right here, this temporary public policy, many people are asking, will they open it up for recent international graduates? At this stage, I don't see them doing it. And the reason is largely because when we go to the rounds of invitations, things have slowed. And the whole purpose of the TR to PR pathway was to get candidates from within Canada so they could transition them. They were low-hanging fruit. And so they created the TR to PR pathway to reward the essential workers who sacrificed so much on the front lines while the pandemic was raging in Canada, and also to help all the international students who were really going through a tough time because of school closures and online classes and the inability to work because of the pandemic. So all of this was designed to help reward those who were suffering in Canada and those who were making sacrifices for the benefit of everyone in this country. So because the rounds of invitations, we have seen things kind of stall out here. Like I said, the last one was September the 1st, and then we haven't seen anything. And even the draws for the CEC have been smaller. So the last ones, they've only been 3,000. This one was 45, and then back in June, they were doing big draws of 6,000, which took the scores all the way down to 357. So because they're slowing down in the numbers, I think they're starting to realize that they have, with the TR to PR pathway, they've got a lot of applications in the queue. And so if that's the case, I don't personally think, I don't see them opening up the international grad program to new candidates. And another thing I'll point out is that there are very few people that are actually getting their TR to PR pathway refused. So if that's the case, then it means that a lot of these people that have applied are actually going to make it their way through. And so they're trying to make up the deficit that they suffered from last year, and even this year, with people not being able to come to Canada because of the travel restrictions. So I just want to bring those things up. And actually, back to George here. Like I said, on Monday, September the 13th, this is your chance right now to jump in and join us for the Express Entry course. This course is specifically designed for all of you DIYers out there who are going through Express Entry. You can watch the video here, click on the link below. It'll take you right here, and you will see that this, I haven't done this for a number of months, so it's the first time that it's opening in months, the cart, and it's only open for a short period of time. And basically September the 13th to September the 18th is when I will be doing a series of master classes in the evening at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. And that is associated with the course materials that are available. And if you are wondering, is this worth it for me to take? Scroll down to the bottom and you will see in here, there are a ton of testimonials, including George right here, who took the course. And so don't listen to me, listen to them. And then I have a number of consultants who have taken it, like Shelly here. And so it's open season for all of you to come join me, and it is awesome. So in addition, and if I log in right here, I'll show you guys what it is. If I log in as if I'm a member, you guys will see that this course has sections for every single part of the express entry process. And each group, each cohort of individuals are added to a private Facebook group for just them, where each evening in a live Q&A session with just them and myself, sometimes depending on the numbers, we even do a Zoom call where we can all talk together. But the people that subscribe are put into this special group. And just like the last one that I did, June the 21st to the 25th, that was the last time I did an express entry course, you will see that there are over 56 individual lessons that guide you through every aspect of the whole process. And if this is the first time you're watching this video, it goes through everything from learning the basics, starting your express entry profile, completing your express entry profile, completing the EAPR. And like I said, there are videos, if I click on this, for every single section. So if we go in here and we click on the study section right here, there's a video. This video right here you can see is a short 3-minute and 17-second video to guide you, as well as specific instructions all listed below. And one of the things that I love most about this course, that I think really puts it leaps and bounds ahead of everything else, is the document section. Templates, checklists, there are sample documents all embedded within here. If I go to the records of employment section, which is one of the most challenging ones, yes, there's a video that's 23 minutes long, but then I have tons of tools. How to calculate the hours of work for FSW, for CEC, records of employment checklists that you can provide to your employer. If I click on here, you can see, and we open it up, this is a checklist that you can give your employer, say, hey, this is what my letter needs to look like, and then some additional documentation to help you really knock it out of the park. And it's all designed to help you avoid those mistakes that I see all of the time. And I can't tell you guys how frequently this happens. At least a third of all of the consultations, maybe up to even 40%, are people who have done something wrong and gotten their application returned. Now, normally, hey, it's returned, resubmit. But if you've had a birthday in that time, or the CRS scores for express entry, the rounds of invitations continue to go up and it never drops down to the level that you were at, well, understand this can be the difference between immigrating to Canada or not. And it is serious. And yes, there are tons of free resources out there. But I can tell you this guide is designed to help you guys understand the most problematic areas where you run into issues. I have a NOC selection tool that helps you to make sure that you've chosen the right NOC and present it to an officer in the way that they want. And you can see, as far as sample reference letters, take a look here. If we're counting all the way down, there are there's 30 sample reference letters that I provide. And then the last piece that I'll show you within this course is something people are always asking, Mark, how do I do my letter of explanation? Well, once again, module 6, and if I go to the second page here, I will show you, I have a section specifically geared towards letters of explanation, and I use 2 of them. I use one for information and one for documents. I upload the document LOE with the documents that are being uploaded, and I've got templates here, examples, and a lengthy video that's 28 minutes long, explaining how to present your letter of explanation in a way that an officer really wants to see. And how do I know that? Because I was an officer. And so I embed all of that into this to give you guys the tools you need to prepare the most comprehensive, best application that you can possibly prepare. And on top of all those videos, then there is the masterclass, and there's a private Facebook group that you're invited to be a part of it. And all of this, you guys, all of it is available for life. Even though the actual course itself if we flip back to the course itself, it's from Monday to Friday next week. You have access to all of the tools, all of the resources, all of the course material, all of the Facebook page. All of that is available to you for the entire length of time that you need, which is basically life. So head on over here, go here, click on register now, and subscribe for the course. And if you're wondering whether it's worth the $347 US, well, just go and click to the bottom here and take a look at just some of the most recent testimonials from people that have taken classes in literally the most recent classes that I've had. All right, enough promoting that. And lots of people are like, Mark, just get to answering questions. Why are you talking about this? The reason I do is because I see the train wrecks. I see the problems that people are having over and over. And I realize that, yes, people can book consults with me, but by doing a master class where I go one with the people in the cohort, just them, I'm able to dive a lot deeper than I ever can in this live Q&A, and people actually get the questions answered that they're struggling with. And one of the best parts, as you'll see if you read the testimonials, is that you learn from the other questions that the group members ask. And it's like everybody's a family. So the cart is closing on that on Monday at 5 p.m. Monday evening at Mountain Time. That's when the first live Q&A session with those members of the group will start. And we just become like a family by the time we're through it. It's awesome. Okay. All right. So let's jump through here. We've got a ton. So yes, George, great to see you, my friend. And we've got, oh, he's crying from Tunisia. Well, I'm so sorry, Elomi, that you're crying. Okay. Okay. Let's scroll down here a little bit till we get to the part. Okay. All right. I'm going to do a couple more shout outs. And I know we've got a ton of questions that have been posted by people. And this is always the challenge because people are posting questions before I give you the green light to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. We're going to start fresh. And so now you can start posting the course now. Okay. And let's see what we have here. Okay. So what's the next question? Oh, hey, Mark, great course. Took it last September and totally paid off. Tens of questions and doubts will be cleared. Highly recommend you guys. Oh, I'm going to give this one right here. Thank you so much, my friend. There we go. There's someone who took the course. Okay. Okay, Camilo says, thanks for this space. Is it true that I only need an ECA for my last degree? I already got my ECA for a master's degree. I don't need to provide one for a bachelor's degree, right? Thank you. Yeah, if I have clients that have obtained their master's degree, the highest level, then they don't necessarily have to go and get, if they already have an ECA for the master's, I don't worry about getting one for the bachelor's if it wasn't already done by the individual. Okay. Okay, this is great. I love this too. So he says, I am blurry. I need to focus. Okay, here we go. We're going to focus in here. Okay, I think that's not bad. All right, how's that? Is that so? And as you guys can see, I don't have this big team of people that are, I don't think there's anything wrong with my lens here. Let's see. Okay, there. I think we're clear. Let me see what else I have here with my options. I don't think so. I think we're good. Let's see. Stream aspects, stream size. Well, it's 1440. It's pretty high. Okay, I think we're good now. Thank you, Thacy. Focus, bro. All right, I am focused. How does that sound? Does it look like I'm focused now? Hopefully I am. See, that's the help that I need from you guys. Okay. Okay, yep. So Abdur, you asked the question, and I already talked about this. I personally don't think that immigration, like I said before, is going to have a significant, I don't think it's going to be significantly impacted by the results of the election. That's my belief, at least when it comes to economic immigration. Okay, and Lexi's asking the question again, same thing about the FSW. Understand that people are already getting their FSWs approved. It's just that some countries are slower than others. And so the time that it takes, if you've already had your FSW approved and you're just waiting for your permanent resident visa, well, understand that it depends upon the country that you're in. And some countries are slower for all the reasons that I discussed earlier in the video. Okay, here's a good question. Brazarius says, does an overstay in the US impact my chances for immigration to Canada? It was a 6-month overstay 7 years ago. I was an idiot. Well, I can tell you, Brazarius, that it will not impact your immigration if you disclose it. The key for you is to disclose. And if it's a mere overstay, and it's interesting because when you're filling out your statutory information questions, it asks if you were ever refused. And so, have you ever been refused a visa? Have you ever been denied entry? Those types of questions in the statutory information section. It doesn't ask, have you overstayed anywhere? It just says, have you had a visa refused? So your obligation is to be very clear and to identify if you've had any visa applications refused or denied entry. Your obligation is to disclose that. When it comes to overstays, it doesn't specifically ask any questions about it, but in your personal history, you're still going to need to disclose what you were doing. So you're going to make sure that you disclose that very, very carefully. Brazarius, this is something that a lot of people have asked questions about, and it's for that reason that I started doing the master classes associated with my Express Entry course right here. So in this way, we were able to dive in a little bit deeper, talk about specific circumstances, and also there's always the consult to Brazarius if you want to talk about that in more detail. Okay, here's a great question. Zacharias says, okay, wow, there's 4 Qs there. I can see that. I like that. Okay. With CRS 468, is it worth to wait for an FSW or apply for a study permit? Zachariah, it is really, really difficult. This is one of these ones right here because there are so many other factors at play here in addition to just your CRS score. So when is your birthday? Are you having a birthday next week that's going to drop it down another 5 points? What's your own personal history? What is the likelihood of you being able to get the study permit? Do you have a clear plan? Does it make sense for you to be able to study in Canada? Because remember, when you're applying to study in Canada, you're basically telling immigration that I'm coming to study so that I can improve my job prospects when I go back to my home country. Not I'm coming to study and then I'm going to use that as a springboard to apply for permanent residence, even though international students are the best candidates that we have. So in your situation, do I submit a profile? That's really the question. If you've already submitted a profile, you've submitted it. But those who are trying to decide, do I submit a profile in Express Entry or do I go study permit? Why do I have an either or alternate? Because if you don't think you have a shot at getting an invitation to apply, then it's better not to submit an Express Entry profile if you're applying for a study permit to come study. Because at the crux of that study permit is temporary intent. And now that they're using AI to process applications and study permit applications in many countries, they take all kinds of factors into play when they're assessing whether or not to approve. And having previously applied for permanent residence is one of the factors that they use against people if they're applying to come. Now, that in and of itself is not a ground on its own to refuse, but it can be a factor that influences an officer's decision to deny a study permit. And many of you have probably experienced that. So 468, I think what the real question Zachariah is asking is if I think the rounds of invitations are going to go down to that level. And I can tell you guys, if we go back here, let's look at the ministerial instructions and let's look at the previous rounds. Actually, let's go back here. I'm going to go back 1 space to here, and you can see that it has the number of candidates in the pool as of August the 30th, just before that last PNP draw on September the 1st. You can see how many candidates, and these are total candidates. They're not just candidates for FSW or CEC or even PNP. So these are before these 600 or 764 candidates were invited. So those are actually still a part of this. But if you scroll down and you look at this, you can see that from the range that we're looking at, which is 471 to 480, we know there are over 11,415 people. Most of those, many of those are Outland FSW. And so even if you go to 461 to 470, so 468 to 470 is probably still pulling another 3,000 or so in this category, maybe even 4,000. So you add those together, maybe there's 15. And then even at the 481 level, we have 4,000. 491 to 500 is 1500. So you guys can do the math. So we're pulling maybe about 3 here, and then we're adding 14, 17, 18. There's probably about 20,000 or more that are from the 491 to 500. And even above that, we have over 2,500. So there's like over 20,000 individuals that are in the queue that would technically be above a 468. And if they're only doing rounds of invitations that are pulling in, well, how many? I'd say maybe, you know, well, what have we looked? If we go back and look, before, when we looked at the previous rounds of invitations, the last open draws they did back in the new year, well, really December the 23rd was the last one that they had done last year, right here. No program specified. They did 5,000. Even if they did 5,000 draws, there's probably going to be, and that was the last time it went down to 468. Well, the long story short, if you add up all of those things I was talking about, Zachary, I think it's very unlikely that you're going to get drawn at 468 anytime soon. Very unlikely. So you can use that as a factor as to whether you personally think you should proceed forward with a study permit. But if you want more information, more guidance, don't hesitate to slide over here to our website and book a consultation with one of our lawyers. And there's a link in the description below. Okay, that's a good question. I spent a lot of time on it, but it's something that a lot of people are struggling with. Do I proceed forward with my study permit, or do I put my express entry application in the pool? Now, one other thing I didn't talk about was the PNPs. I don't know what your occupation is, Zakaria. Maybe there's an Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program application. Maybe there's a notification of interest. Maybe your work history is in IT. Maybe you can get one of those. And the only way you can get those is to have a profile in the queue. Maybe Alberta decides to start extending invitations or notifications of interest to people who are not in Alberta. Right now, that's not the case, but maybe they will. Maybe based on occupation, although they haven't been doing that for a long time. And then finally, maybe there's another province that also PEI or somewhere like that, who maybe has a program and they're drawing people that are lower than those who would otherwise be drawn through the traditional Outland or the no program specified draws. So that's the only factor I'd want you to consider, Zakaria. And really, a consultation is the best way to assess if there is something that would justify putting an application in the pool. 468 is a high score, but it's too low for being outside Canada. And when it comes to FSW, at least when they open it up again. Okay. Rosemary, you're going to need to go back and watch it. I'm not going to recap it other than what I've just said. The borders are open. Some visa offices are not operating at peak capacity, but they are processing permanent resident visas abroad. They are. They haven't stopped them in all countries. It really comes down to the how full of the visa offices are and whether they're still working at with just a skeleton crew. Okay, so here's another question. Do you think a ban from the UK due to false documentation have any effect on one's Canada PR application? Absolutely, it does. It absolutely does have an effect. Does that effect result in your application to Canada being refused? No, not necessarily, but you have an obligation to disclose it and to lay it out. And I've got a couple clients that, in just the past while, well, really it was right in the midst of the beginning of the pandemic where we worked through that situation. We submitted applications, we disclosed the issues fully, and things worked out for them. But remember, especially from the UK, Canada has sharing agreements with the UK. They can see everything in your immigration history. If you applied through Australia, New Zealand, the US, there is full information sharing, and Canada has access to your full immigration history. So there's no secrets. There's not hiding anything. You're going to disclose it. Okay. No, Esther says, do I expect bi-weekly PNP only? No, I don't. In fact, I expect that there's going to be something this week. I expected last week that we would have seen something. But personally, no, I do not believe that there's going to be PNP only. I believe that they're going to continue doing it. And I believe that there will, within a short period of time, I believe that they're going to open it up and that there will be no program specified draws. Our steep, same thing. Travel ban, we're just watching. We're just watching. Okay. And there's lots of questions about, okay, I love this. Burke here apparently knows something that I don't know. And Burke, the country is large, okay? And so Burke says, don't say they're slowly working because they're not. Burke, you have to understand that yes, indeed, they are slowly working. And there are more visa offices in the world than in India or wherever your country is that you're at. So I get a little frustrated when people post this. I bring it up just because you're the one making the comment, but to say that they are not processing any Outland applications is simply not true. So, in what basis do you, this comment? I'd love to see your evidence for why you feel that, other than anecdotal reports from people online. Like, are you talking to immigration? Do you know what's happening? I know that they are processing. They're doing it very slowly. And some countries are not being processed. If you're from India and there's a travel ban, then hell no, they're not going to be processing anything because you can't travel. So understand that the world is a big place, and there are many countries abroad, overseas, where, including the United States, where applications are being processed, although it is slow. Okay, so we'll leave that one there. Thanks for your comment, Burke. Okay. See what else we have here. Yes, Kishan. He said, hey, Mark, did your client get AOR under the TR to PR? Yes, indeed, he did. And things are moving forward very well for him and his family, and with 4 children. And things are moving forward very, very positively. Just completing their medicals. Actually, the medicals are done. They're completing their police certificates for Mexico and have just submitted those, which, as many of you will know, you can't submit in advance. So they've gone through that process. So now we're just waiting. But thanks for asking, Kishan. Those of you who probably know, myself, who was leading the charge on the TR to PR pathway, took one client, one only, that I represented, because I refused to prejudice any other clients with that mad rush of applications. And so we went through that process, and I represented one client only because I felt it was disingenuous. And many of you used representatives that filed 20 or more applications. And I can tell you, there's a lot of you I know that didn't make the cut because of that. Okay, let's see here. Okay, here's a good question, Ankit. It's kind of out there, but that's fine. Ankit says, if I work in a family business, but my ITR does not show salary as we live and spend together, am I eligible for self-employed LMIA? There is no self-employed LMIA that is advertising exempt. You basically go through the same process of proving that whatever position LMIA you're looking at obtaining, if you purchase a business and it's self-employed, or it's really an entrepreneur one. You own a business and you're going to run it. The key factors to realize is that you have to go through all of the advertising in Canada to show that there's no one else that can fill that position before you even work for your own company. I don't agree with it. The program was heavily abused by representatives who just convinced people who couldn't qualify through express entry to go through the LMIA owner operator route. But understand, when it comes to demonstrating your work history, if it's a family business and you don't have good evidence to show your hours or your wage, it can be rejected by immigration. Now, if you can provide other evidence to support it, great. But I just had a consultation with someone who we're going to be representing through our collaborative review model. And I think a lot of you probably know by now that I don't just represent clients the way that normal, most immigration lawyers and consultants do. I do a collaborative review model. You can go over to our website and check it out, where I work directly with you, myself, no intermediary, no assistant, no paralegal, no one in between. It's you and I, or one of my lawyers and you, directly in building out your entire application, reviewing all your forms, all your documents, and I hold that process up against any other process, because you might miss something, or I might miss something on my own, but together we just don't miss anything. And when the application is ready, we assist you even with uploading to your own MyCIC account and then filing your application, or to the new PR portal. But we work collaboratively together, and then we provide a modified representative form that says review only. We were retained to help review the application, but the client is managing the file going forward. So that's how we do that. But anyways, long story short, Ankit, when it comes to applying, yes, it's going to be tough for you if you don't have the evidence to show you were actually employed, because when you're working for a family business, you You don't always work in the same way that you do as an employee. Maybe you don't work the full 30 hours a week. Maybe, the payment needs to be properly documented and recorded so that an officer can assess and determine that, yes, it was paid and that you weren't just working kind of volunteering with your family. Okay. Okay, Kieran, I don't know what your question is here. What is the current situation for file numbers for IRCC? I don't know. I'm assuming you're talking maybe about the acknowledgement of receipt, but all I can tell you is that the GCMS system is a mess. We're getting email notifications to provide documents that were already provided. It's taking forever to get confirmation, especially with the TR to PR pathway, and everything is still really, really ugly. Okay. Jim says, what time do you normally do the live session in the course? He's in Dubai, so I was wondering if I will have to take an extra dose of caffeine to stay awake. 5 p.m. Mountain Time is when I do it. And so, excuse me, Jim, I know that it's going to be early for you. Absolutely, I know that. So an extra dose of caffeine. Remember that all of those live sessions are all recorded. And if you can attend it, you can post your question directly into the Facebook group. And this is the beauty of this. So when you post it into the Facebook group, everybody helps each other. And I pull those questions out and I answer those in the live session for the people who can't attend right at that time. So every single person that has every question that they could ask gets it answered. And that's why I love doing the master classes. Okay. EC saying, how long should I wait for my eCoper after providing the details into the permanent residence portal? Thank you. Well, I can tell you that it is, it's all over the map, my friend. And so there is no longer can I ever give any assurances as to processing times for any applications right now in Canada. It is a mess. The people ask, how long does it take to process express entry? I've seen a candidate get approved for express entry CEC in under a month, okay? Under 1 month from AOR to finalization eCoper. I've seen people who are sitting in almost the same fact scenario as the first person, almost 6 months now and still don't have theirs approved. Why? I have no freaking clue. I honestly don't. So keep that in mind and be patient and hang in there and be so grateful that you're in the queue, because there are so many people all over the world that would give anything to be in your spot. And so consider yourself super, super lucky. Okay. Okay. Here's a good question. Another express entry one that comes up a lot within my course that I do. So Shabine says, or Remus says, eligibility is complete. Can I take some money from my proof of funds? I didn't receive my PPR yet. Thanks. Understand you have an obligation to maintain those funds. I'll say that right off the start. You have an obligation from the time you submit your EAPR till you land in Canada to maintain your funds at the level in which immigration has required to prove basically you have funds to settle in Canada. The only 2 times where you have to demonstrate it are at the time in which you submit your EAPR and at the time in which you land if a border officer asks. Now, technically, another officer could ask you to provide proof of funds if the level you indicated when you first filed your application, there was an increase by the government, an annual increase in the minimum level. And if at the first you were above it, but then the government increased the level, and then your proof of funds that you've disclosed in your EAPR was lower, they could come back and ask you to prove that you have the additional amount. I always advise in my course and to my clients to put a buffer in there for the cost of living increases that increase every year for those settlement funds. So short answer, it may be possible for you to take some out if you intend to replace it and put it back. But I don't advise my clients to do that if they can avoid it. Okay. Can secondary applicants claim points for French language? Well, if it's their first language, they can, but they're not going to claim points for that as a second language if they're claiming points already for English. Good question. And I'm assuming that's an express entry question. Angel says, can work permit holders work for the government of Canada with this effect when PR? Well, I'll be honest, Angel, I'm not sure. Every single person that I talk to who works for the government has always been a permanent resident. So I have to assume that's probably not the case. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, so Gagan says, any update for New Brunswick PNP nomination 2021 with employer support? Gagan, all across the provinces, things have been in flux. The numbers of candidates that are being sent notifications of interest has really dried up. Provinces are really focusing on employer based applications for people that are already working in the provinces. As far as New Brunswick, I have not heard any updates on that. Obviously, any application from any province where there is employer support is light years ahead of those who are trying to do it without a job offer. But when it comes to New Brunswick PNP nominations for 2021, I just haven't heard. Now, I'm not sure, Gagan, if you've actually submitted it and you're asking for processing times, or with the programs, and they're always constantly changing and evolving, if your question relates to that. But remember, there's always a consult that you can book. Okay. Okay, Omar, this is another great one. He said, send you an email and I hope to hear a response from you ASAP. Understand, guys, this one right here, and when I flip over here, anything outside of what we're doing here, if you want to speak to a lawyer in our firm, including myself, and you send me an email, I will direct you to book a consultation. So I don't offer free advice when it comes to individual questions. I try to do so in here so that the most people possible can benefit. I think we're up to almost about 300 people watching this live today. But understand, Omar, if you sent just an email, more than likely you were directed to book a consult. And that's the way that you can get responses to me. Otherwise, you can post in here, my friend. Okay. All right. And Omar, I don't believe we've had a consult before. I have a lot. So sometimes if you've already are a client and you've sent an email to me, you should be getting a response within a day, and sometimes even sooner. Okay. But I don't think you're a client right now, Omar. Okay. Okay. Let's see if there's ones here. Okay, Berzaria says your Facebook stream is broken. All right, well, I'll have to look into that. Let's just see here, because I can see Himanshu here is posted a comment on Facebook. And so you can see he's also an alumni and he vouches strongly for the masterclass. No need to spend hefty amounts. Marcus, gentlemen, doing a great job. Thank you, my friend. So we'll just have to go back. Gagan gives a thumbs up as well. Okay, let's see here. So yeah, Berzarius, I'm not sure exactly which Facebook stream you're talking about that's broken. So we'll take a look and see. We're always, things happen and Facebook sometimes doesn't cooperate very well. Yes, Hiveen says, does Indian direct flight ban influence processing? Yes, it does. Absolutely, it does. Okay. Priscilla says, will the candidates who have been taken vaccines that are not accepted by Canada still be given COPR? Yes, you will. What happens, those who do not have the vaccinations that are accepted to Canada just have to go through the quarantine. So when you travel as a COPR holder and you arrive, then you're subject to the quarantine obligations when you come to Canada. So you complete the ArriveCan app, and then you have to have your quarantine plan in place. And then you will go forward and you will just have to go through the quarantine. So great question, Priscilla. I'm going to give you one of these ones. That's a really good one. So yep, you absolutely can. Okay. Fred says, is CEC done already? Well, if you mean done as in closed permanently, no. The draws didn't happen last week. And if we go right now, let me just flip here and do a refresh and see if there's any changes. I just looked just this second to see if we had a draw in the last 20 seconds, or sorry, the last 10 minutes since we last looked. No draw yet. So CEC is not going to be canceled. All right. Okay, and then we've got individuals right here. Another person working in a family business. Can I apply for express entry at PNP? Right there, I'll ring the bell, slide over, book a consult, Golo, and we can look at everything in detail and see if there are options for you. Okay. Okay, so we've got that one. We've got family businesses. Yeah, Priscilla's asking the same question about backlogs. It's just happening slowly. Let's see what else here. Okay, Hardick says, can any international student apply under CEC after the 11 months experience? You're doing an amazing job by giving clarity of Canadian immigration. Okay, so can any international student apply under CEC after the 11 months experience? So if you're an international student, remember, none of the work history that you gain while you're on that study permit counts towards the Canadian experience class. Individuals who are on post-grad work permits who apply and have completed their full 12 months of work experience, 1 year of skilled work experience in Canada that's paid and meets all the other 30 hours a week, are then eligible through the CEC. But because the Express Entry profile, when you submit it, takes that calculates work history by month, it's possible for you to get an ITA when you've only completed 11 months, maybe 11 months and 2 days of work experience, if the system rounds up the days that you've actually worked for that month. So if you say you worked from, say, September the 1st, let's say you worked from November the 1st until September the 1st, well, then it's going to give you credit for, or better yet, November 30th of 2020 until September the 1st of 2021. The system will give you credit for the entire month of November and the entire month of September. So in some cases, then that can cause people to get an ITA before they actually meet the 12 months. If that happens, then you wait until you've met the full 1 year before you submit your EAPR. And that usually will fix it. And that's all covered in the course. So we talk about that in detail within the course. Okay. Okay, let's see. So Waj, I think this is one of these ones. He says he's in Morocco, received his study permit, land in January, planning on applying for EE. Is it better to apply while I'm in Morocco or from within Canada? Well, the reality is if you already have your study permit, that you've received it, in other words, the approval letter, then the decision has been made. There's nothing stopping you from having a profile in the pool. But if you do not meet the level, with the rounds of invitations, because you don't have Canadian experience class and because there isn't any outland draws, no program specific draws that have happened, it probably doesn't make any sense to submit that profile until after you get to Canada and and you start moving forward there. Yeah, that's the only advice I'd give you there. But book a consult and we can talk about that in detail. Okay, and those of you like Fred here says, oh, I was late getting on here. Just go back and watch the beginning as a recording and I covered a lot of different information. It's a lot of speculation, but it's speculation based on, I started in 2003. That's when I started kind of working within immigration law. And before that, 2002, I was on the border as an officer working. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, hashtag nerds. What about inland FSW? They're still stuck in the same situation. So the processing of those they're kind of being held in abeyance. A lot of the overseas processing is not going as fast depending upon the country that you're in. But yeah, it's just going slow. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, I already answered that one. Can the secondary applicant claim points for French? If that's their first language, they can. Okay. Okay, here's a good question. So, and this is once again something I covered in the course. What do we need to inform IRCC about, do we need to, in terms of health, surgery, slight increase in salary and current job after the APR? Normally, I do not worry about any of those things. I don't. Now, when it comes to medical admissibility, obviously you have an immigration medical that's done. And if there is a serious health issue that has arisen, then it's entirely possible that immigration could ask questions about that. Now, the biggest issue I always have with people is what's specifically asked and what you have to volunteer. And in your situation, miss. It really depends upon what's happening. If you have a serious medical condition that arose after you completed your immigration medical, back and redo that medical. And then the question is, do you have a proactive obligation to disclose something that would affect the processing of your application? And I can tell you that affirmatively you do. You have an obligation to disclose things that would impact on the processing of the application if circumstances change. And one of the questions is, do you have any serious health or mental health issues? That's right in the statutory declaration section. So if that changes, you have an obligation to update it. Same thing happens if you have there's a criminal matter that's pending for you, or you've got a crime or something. You have an obligation to update and disclose that. And that all comes back to the statutory information section. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Ibrahim says, I withdrew a student visa application to Australia. Should that be disclosed? Well, if you withdrew it versus it being refused, and you know that it was clearly a withdrawn application, the question says, have you ever had an application refused? But I'll let you in on something. There is nothing wrong with saying, I withdrew in a letter of explanation. So answering no and saying, no, I have never had an application refused to Australia. But then in a letter of explanation, say, please note that I applied and then withdrew an application. It was not refused. And that's why I said, no, I've never had an application refused. And then you cover the bases. There's no uncertainty. There's no chance of an officer in Australia indicating your application was refused when you actually withdrew it. And then Canada saying you didn't disclose that refusal. So that's one of the nuances that people are sometimes not always aware of. Yeah, here's a great question, Mohammed. I have heard virtually nothing about refusals. So if anybody has TR to PR pathway, if anyone out there has experienced an actual refusal, I would love to get details on it, because I've seen a tremendous amount of flexibility when it comes to officers willing to work with people to correct applications under the TR to PR pathway that were just wrong. All right. So great question, Mohammed. Thanks for asking that one. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Where are we at? Okay. We're into overtime a little bit here, you guys. I'm just trying to, let's see here. Next CEC draw, not sure, Vinay, not sure. I'm hoping that, as I talked about initially, I actually expected something to happen last week. And so there hasn't been anything. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. Okay, let's see here. We're just about, I'll get to a couple more questions and then we'll wrap this up. Okay, let's see. Okay. There's lots of questions about working in family businesses, and I know that I've covered those. Let's see here. There's a lot of the same questions that are being asked over and over. I'm going to answer two more. Interesting. Tons of questions over and over. Okay. I'll answer this one, even though this one is, even though this one's a little bit more specific. There's so many questions that just repeat over and over the same questions about FSW reopening. Okay, I have a study permit to study in the University of Manitoba. All the classes are online. I came to Saskatoon because my brother lives here. Do I need to inform Migration Office that I moved? No, I don't think so in those circumstances. The reality is, if you're attending the U of M virtually, you can live wherever you want in Canada. There's no restriction on where you live. So I don't see any obligation to inform about that. Obviously, when the time comes and classes resume in person, you're going to need to be there to resume them. But I don't see any issues with that. Let's see here. Burke's funny. He says, do not spam, be civilized. And I'll be honest, you guys, that's why it's taking so long, is because questions I've answered already are being asked like 4, 5, 6 times. And I can't tell if it's just my system that's causing the duplication or whether it is people that are actually posting multiple times. Let's see here. I'm trying to find one last one, you guys. Okay. Okay, we're going to finish off with them all. So I've talked about this a little bit. He said, how will be the CRS points going to be in next year? Okay, so if you look back historically with Express Entry, you'll see that there are patterns that exist. And obviously, the larger the draws, the more frequent the draws, the more the scores go down. The more people that are applying, the more people that are in the queue, the higher the CRS scores go up. For years, they didn't do a lot of CEC only draws. They did mostly no program specified. And that means some people that had CEC went through, some people that are FSW. But right now, I will tell you that it's going to be really difficult for people that are outside Canada who do not have either a family member already in Canada, a sibling, or who don't speak French. To get 469 points, and this is something that I cover in detail in my course, an individual needs to have a master's degree, at least 3 years of skilled work experience, be 29 years old or younger, and they have to have at least a CLB 9, which is an 8 in listening and a 7 in other factors. So reading, writing, and speaking. And so with that makeup, you're sitting at 469 points. And right now, I don't think that's going to cut it for a long time. So if you have a little bit better than a CLB 9, maybe you've got a 9 on the IELTS in one of the abilities or more of the abilities, then you get a few extra points. But CLB 9 with 3 years of skilled work experience, a master's degree, and 29 years old is 469. So Outlanders, if you're not at least at that level and probably higher for sure, I don't think there's going to be any chance of getting an ITA anytime soon. If they continue to do big draws of large people and they flush out everybody at the top, you could see last year at the end of the year, they did a number of 5,000 draws. And when they did them repeatedly over and over again, then it started to flush out the candidates at the top and allowed for it to dip into the 468 level. But for almost over a year, it never got down that low. So I think most people, if you want a chance, you're going to have to be in the low 470s. When it comes to CEC, if they continue to do CEC draws on a frequent basis like they have in the past, then I think it is going to hover around the low 400s. If they do large draws of 5,000 instead of the 3,000, then it's possible it could continue to dip back down into the low, the higher 300s, like 390s, 380s even. But the only reason it got down to 357 was because there were a number of CEC only draws every 2 weeks that pulled in a lot of people, thousands of people. So there's my little prognostication. So those of you who are considering, do I apply for a study permit or do I go through Express Entry? If your CRS score is below, 468, 469, there is not another PNP program that you think you've got a shot at, then I would probably consider studying. If you have a study permit that you've applied for and it's refused, that refused study permit doesn't impact on your ability to then try to go back into the Express Entry pool. But the world is changing. It is becoming so competitive. And those who have a connection to Canada with work, with family, studying, yes, have a much greater chance of becoming a permanent resident than those who are economic, skilled workers from abroad that do not have a connection and are going through the FSW. So without a job offer. So that's kind of the world that we're in. Hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. I appreciate everybody that's tuned in. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to get to everybody's questions. There was a ton of questions here that I just was not able to get to, and that's the challenge. So those of you who are looking at applying through Express Entry, make sure that you come over and subscribe to the course. So right here, you can see September the 13th, which is Monday. That's when we do the course. And anything related to Express Entry, the people that subscribe to this are going to be admitted into a private Facebook group where you can post all your questions in there. And every evening from September 13th to the 18th, I will be going live at 5 p.m. Mountain Time to have a member-only Q&A to answer all of your questions. All right. So those of you who are unable to get your questions answered in the live Q&A today, if it's Express Entry related, go over and subscribe to the course. It'll be totally worth it. And if you have questions unrelated to Express Entry, then book a consult with my law firm. We are immigration lawyers with tons and tons of years of experience. Alicia has more years of experience than I do, and I started back in 2003. And Susan has almost as much experience as both Alicia and I. And we're happy to help you. We're happy to support you in your journey. And that 25-minute consultation will be totally worth your time to help clarify any questions you have. And then some people then decide that they want complete peace of mind and retain us to do a collaborative review of their applications. You can head over to the website, and if you go to Hothe Immigration Law, you can check out DIY courses. We have careers. Our approach is where you go, and you'll see how we're just different. And when you click on the approach page, it talks all about our collaborative review approach, how it works, and basically gives you a pretty good breakdown of all aspects of the process. So if you're looking for complete peace of mind, you can work directly with us and we'll help you to make sure that you get it right the first time. All right. Okay. This is the end of the line for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate, everybody, all your questions. Once again, I apologize. We've got an hour here to get through. I went a little bit more to 11:14 here to try to get some more questions in. And if you didn't get your question answered, I'll be back again next Wednesday. And thanks so much for everything, you guys. It's been a blast. We'll see you next week, or probably sooner if I do some other videos. All right. See you later.